G'day everyone. How we going? Just gonna make sure that do a quick audio check. Make sure everyone's online. Yeah, check. Make sure everyone's in line. Yeah, everyone's good. Cool. G'day everyone. Check. Make sure everyone's in line. Yeah. I'm just gonna have a residual echo from that. So cool. Which might stick around for a little bit. We can just chat about a little bit of stuff that's going on. Oh, look at that! It even says we're on air. How cool is that?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So this is the first time I've used VDO.Ninja. I'm kind of like just going through and just like some of the technical things you can do with it is actually quite remarkable. Yeah, it's really, really pretty cool. Anyway, enable director's microphone. Sorry. Anyway, g'day everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to quickly throw on chat so I can kind of see everyone. Yep, there's Shane. G'day, Shane. I know that there's a few people jumping online tonight for a very, very, very loose, informal talk on
Just
PowerShell.
moderately casual.
Yeah, very moderately casual. That's the word. See, I gotta work on my my tongue twisters. I don't even say it's a tongue twister. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think what's been going on, Wayne? Might as well talk a little bit about that first. We can let some people drop in, and then we can kind of informally get started. So what's been going on in your world?
Oh, geez, I just finished a course, like a massive Azure course. Been working on for 6 months. So that's been brutal. And now I'm doing a fun
Brutal.
one, a challenging, like troubleshooting one. It's gonna be cool. I'm gonna be doing that in August. So yeah, that's me. What about you?
Oh, mate, it's been quite interesting. Sorry, I'm just gonna try and yeah. So yeah, one of the things I've been working in is a lot around Artifactory at the moment. So just one of the things I've been working on is writing a Node.js proxy, which is run as configuration stateless, which is quite interesting. One of the interesting side gigs that I've got going on at the moment is some work that I'm doing with Script Runner, and this is actually really, really interesting work. I'm hoping to have it done soon because I really want to demo it. It's really, really, really interesting logic to write. And the whole concept is essentially to be able to marry up Script Runner, to be able to add the ease of use for Script Runner with datum and desire state configuration. So it's kind of marrying those two together and how you can kind of utilize Script Runner and give that kind of ability to help desk people to kind of add a new node, for instance, into datum so it can provision through your DSC pipeline, which is really quite interesting. And it requires a lot of logic in terms of just trying to dig out the basic functionality of datum. So I had to essentially pre-pass the resolution precedence because if the whole concept of Script Runner is to be able to kind of provide a seamless interface to anybody who can use it. You want to make it as basic as possible.
Yeah, they don't need to know PowerShell.
Yeah, they don't need to know PowerShell or as little PowerShell as possible.
Yeah.
And so the idea there was I was like, I want to be able to suck out all the information from datum. So like pre-pass the resolution precedence and then figure out what the actual variables are on disk, so that when you actually go and when you actually go and select it, it's all just nice and drop downs. You know, it's essentially just pre-passed information.
Yep.
That's quite difficult to do, especially with the way that it obviously datum kind of works after the fact. It's not before the fact. So essentially what I did was I wrote a pre-parser, and what it does is it dynamically writes a PowerShell script, and it basically dynamically generates the parameter block in the script, dynamically sets the validate set attribute on those items that have pre-filled items, overrides actions that basically, for instance, the node name, that's something that needs to be statically set. So there's, like a template file that also kind of comes into the mix that needs to merge together and form this kind of thing. And then from that action file automatically gets updated in script runner. So it basically just, you just see a seamless transition of, something new. So if you add a new entry into the data and configuration, it just works. And then from that, and then basically essentially that script is responsible for taking those parameters and then basically provisioning the template from a template file, the actual configuration. And then obviously you have underneath all that, you have the automation that basically, periodically kicks off your DSC compilation process. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So you're basically allowing people to write infrastructure as code, or configuration
Mm.
management as code, or whatever you want to call it, without writing code.
That's exactly right. It's actually it's a very the one thing I realized, and this is something that I went to Jordan's Bucks party on Saturday night, and I finished up about 7. I went home, and then basically I worked on this issue that I was working on, and essentially there's so much dynamic logic that has to be written into it, like just to kind of suck that data out and make it visible as a parameter. Like the amount of complexity that has to go into it just to do that
Yeah.
is actually really remarkable. And so, my wife's like, but I'm just like, you don't understand how hard it is to get there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really quite cool. I've still got to finish it though, so I'm still on the still trying to sort all that out. Yeah, so that's what's been going on there. Might as well check out what's going on with chat. When you write PowerShell that's blindingly fast, you got to protect your eyes somehow.
That's right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is
When you're
right.
flying FA-18s and you're writing PowerShell that quickly, you got to be wearing sunnies. It's the only way to go.
Oh, I reckon we should totally do a VR podcast.
Yeah.
And just feel like you're in the VR world, and but that'd be like Facebook Meta, so maybe not. BW is like, you two look like you've just come off a big weekend bender. Oh mate, nah. Oh well, yeah, if you call that the lack of sleep, but yeah,
Yeah.
dad life. Yeah, all right. So I might as well, we might as well quickly informally kick it off. I'm gonna kind of transition a little bit into. Man, I've been here hitting F8, and these guys are flying F8Es. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Didn't even know the F-18 key existed, but there it is.
Yeah. You just got to get one of those really, really big keyboards.
Actually, this Mac keyboard goes to F-18.
Does it?
Yeah, it's like...
Oh, look at that. Fair income.
I'll just hit that key now, and then something bad will happen.
Next minute.
Wow, I'm going super fast right now. I'm bombing stuff.
Highway to... Oh god! Actually, that's actually something I'm kind of disappointed. I never actually got to see the new Top Gun Maverick, and I actually.
Oh,
Really
mate, you're missing out.
Yeah, I
Do
know.
yourself a favor.
It's kind of funny because I just one of those movies. I was like, I want to go see it, and then I was like, I never found time to go see it.
Find the
I'm like,
time. Just say to your wife, like, oh, I was going to dug in the supermarket. I'm just going to go grab some. Actually, I'm going to go to the mall. I'm going to buy you something real nice. Back soon.
Yeah, go buy something real nice. Back soon.
Go see Top Gun.
Yep.
Duck into Silly Solids on the way out, and then home.
Yep. Okay. All right. I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then this is like, why did it take so long? It's because
it's an important decision.
It's
for the love of my life.
I'm just gonna quickly see if I know that there's a third person joined on this here because you can probably see there's like a black space below us. So we'll have a bit of a chat. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit informally about PowerShell. So one of the things I've been working quite extensively with is the Nuget API. And this is kind of through work, and it's kind of one of the things I've been looking at is essentially internalizing, internalizing the PowerShell. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly close Steam down because I'm getting prompted for 1,000 people saying, hey, I've just joined this game. So it's one of those things that, it's kind of been working through Nuget V2 and just kind of looking at internalizing the PowerShell gallery. So it's kind of spending a bit of time within the API itself, and it's quite an interesting API, especially understanding how PowerShell Get works from a technical perspective. But I think I'll kind of draw it out for you in a little bit of an informal thing. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Create a secondary stream. Select a screen to share. I'm just going to kind of jump in whiteboard here. Just let me know when you guys can see that.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, cool.
It's very white, but we got you.
Yeah, okay, cool. Alrighty, so one of the things that is really, really interesting is how all the modules work. So I'm going to kind of just, hopefully, I was going to use Paint, but I'm just going to kind of draw this out. So one of the really interesting things is that, so I was always wondered, like, this is like, I'm just going to kind of talk through my process. One of the things I always wondered was, why was package management, one of the required modules within PowerShell? What's the significance of package module or package management with PowerShell Get? So, you've got the PowerShell Get module, which contains install module, remove module, those kinds of commandlets, and then you've got this package management module, which sits underneath it. The thing is under the hood, basically, it's essentially a dependency of PowerShell, and so I'm just going to kind of draw this like so. So what's quite interesting is PowerShell Get sits at the top of our stack here, and this is really where you kind of get all your nice, your commandlets like import module, install module, those kinds of things, find module, register, I think it's register PS session. What's really quite interesting is within here, that basically essentially it sits up the top there, and then underneath here we have the package management module. Oh, sorry, package management. Now the package management module is actually quite interesting. It's now called OneGet, which is just a little bit of interest, a little bit of a nuance there. But essentially, the package management module is responsible for kind of handling access to your NuGet repositories, execution to any. It's essentially the best way to kind of describe it is a bit of a. It's actually a framework, more of a framework module that's kind of designed to interact with different source types. So you can go find package, install package, those kinds of commandlets. But the thing is that you have to be able to provide, register, provide some sort of provider, and that provider can be NuGet, it can be NuGet's probably the most common one, but you have other ones like MSI, things like that. And what's quite interesting is that that's really where you then have the PowerShell package source down the bottom here. And the PowerShell package source essentially is your, it's kind of your, it's really where the rubber meets the road. It's kind of like the where the API calls are actually made to be able to do something. So, and what's kind of interesting in here is that through the stack, PowerShell under the hood uses the NuGet v2 API. What's really quite interesting about that is that there doesn't seem to be NuGet v3 at the moment for it. So we're still kind of stuck with NuGet v2. But some of the features with NuGet v3, and I'll kind of look at a little bit about at that tonight. We're actually going to have a look at the JSON structure within it, and we're going to look at the XML structure within that. Just going to pause. Do you guys hear anything in my background on my speaker?
Just a little bit. It's not too bad.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect. And what's really quite interesting here is that within the structure here, you need all three items to be able to actually query it. And this is one of the reasons why when you kind of see in PowerShell, when you see the documentation, it's like you install Windows 10, where you have to update your PowerShell Get, or, earlier versions of Windows 10, you have to update PowerShell Get to be able to access the module. And the reasoning, and if you're looking behind it, you have to actually install the NuGet Package Management provider. So you have to install the NuGet Package Management provider as well as the Package Management module to be able to actually pull the new module. And the reason why is because it needs to be able to get the updated NuGet packages here to the NuGet package provider or package source. I think it's package provider. Actually, it's not package source, it's package provider to be able to actually retrieve that info. So let me just quickly fire up chat for a second. Sound like that? talking near a waterfall. Yeah, there's a lot of snow coming through BRB meetings. Okay, cool. So, and what's really quite so let's go. We can actually go ahead and have a quick look at this. So I'm just going to kind of just use it doesn't really matter between PowerShell Core and PowerShell. They kind of just use the same uses the same kind of thing. So so what we can actually do is you can see here on the left hand side, it's PowerShell 5.1. Can everyone see the text on the screen, or should I kind of? I can just zoom it in. I'll just do that. So one of the things, so like I said, you can go obviously find module.
I think I'm still seeing the whiteboard, Michael.
You're still seeing the whiteboard? Okay, two secs. Okay, let's still see. I'm just going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to again. Okay. Okay, screen one. Okay, perfect. Yep, allow. Okay, cool. So one of the really interesting things here is that your traditional PowerShell get, and I'm going to also talk a little bit about new PowerShell, the new PowerShell get as well. So because that's actually there's some interesting stuff with that. So obviously, actually before we just kind of go and look at find modules, the first thing I want to do is go and get package source. So this commandlet, you can see here, what it does is it returns a list of packages that have been provided that I have registered on this machine here. So you can see here I've got Nuget org, and I've got Nuget v3. One of the interesting things is that you can see here that there's no PowerShell get. We can see a Nuget providers, but we don't see any PowerShell gets. So we're actually going to need to register PS Gallery on this because PS Gallery is not there. Now, we don't actually have to. There's two ways you can do it. You can actually register it manually, or you can actually use the commandlet to register it. Now, I can't remember the commandlet off the top of my head, so what we can do is just go register package source, touch name, and we're just going to go PowerShell Gallery. Oh, it's called PS Gallery. And then we need to provide a provider here, so we're just going to say provider. Oh, that's very interesting. Provider name. Actually, we can just say Nuget. And then we actually no, it has to be PowerShell get. And I actually think my PowerShell, I've actually broken my PowerShell get because I don't see any PowerShell providers there. Let's just see if this works. Let's wait for AutoTab complete to actually kick in. Come on, there we go. Location, and we can just basically go https gallery.org/API/v2. Okay, so package source PS Gallery exists. Really interesting. Why is it not? Okay, did I? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So I say get package source, and then I say get package source again, and that's there. So go figure. I think the reason why is because I'm using the beta, so there might be some wonkiness happening. So anyway, so one of the really, really interesting things is that, so you can see here we got two PowerShell get packages. You can use register. You can use register, like the official way to do it is use register PS repository. However, one of the things is that, and this is kind of just that gotcha catch-22, is that if you're wanting to be able to kind of just read a package source and not having to worry about pushing, because essentially when you're registering a PS repository, there's a requirement to be able to actually also push packages to it. So if you want to kind of get around that, you can just use register. You can just use register package source, and it kind of just gets around that for you. And the thing is, it still works because it's still a provider name, and you can still use it because it's PowerShell get. So it's really quite handy. Now, the other really interesting thing about these kinds of providers is that if you kind of, and this is the other thing, there's been a document that was set up, that was written by Microsoft a while ago about talking about how you can set up your own Nuget artifact in Azure DevOps to be able to kind of host an internal PowerShell gallery And that, essentially, as long as it's a NuGet v2 package source, it's perfectly fine. It won't work with NuGet v3, so obviously it's dependent on NuGet v2. And one of the interesting things with that is that NuGet v2 has the whole registration process relies on actually authentication. So out of the box, from what I remember back in the day, I had to actually authenticate. Now there is means of you just be able to anonymously authenticate. There is means to be able to actually authenticate normally, but that doesn't actually usually happen. The way that authentication works is essentially, and if you're not familiar with the process under the hood, all it does is it sets it's not the authorization header in the HTTP. It's actually it's an XXX something hyphen. I can't remember the exact header name, but essentially it just embeds a OAuth token in that, which is essentially just a basic OAuth authentication token in there. It's not technically OAuth, it's just authentication token. So that's basically, where you've got your string, it's just, basic. You'd have your username followed by your password. And that's pretty much that. So it's really quite interesting and how it kind of talks. But I'm gonna kind of we'll go for a little bit of a dive now into NuGet v2. Does anyone have questions? Like, feel free to interrupt and ask questions. Like, this is not, it's really, really informal, so I'm not particularly gonna like have any sort of requirements to be here. Sorry, I don't have any requirements to like rush through this. So one of the interesting things is that, so if we go find module, let's just go pester, and we go repository. I might have guessed it, but what about winget? Yeah, winget's a little bit different. So it's more of a package management, kind of similar to Choco, but it's not really. That's kind of a different kind of package source. I know that, yeah, it's just a different package source. So now one of the interesting things is if we can just quickly go and pass the verbose switch is actually really, really quite handy. Find module repository. As you can see, very, very informal. So one of the interesting things here is you can actually see the URLs that it's performing its lookup. And this is actually something that I really like doing and this is kind of how I got to really fully understand the structure of the gallery is to essentially go and have a look at it. And it's quite interesting because what you can see here, let me just see if I can drag this new window over. Can you guys see that? If everyone can still see that? I might just zoom that in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit small. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right. So one of the really, really interesting things here is that with the PowerShell gallery is that there's only a couple of URLs that actually call. Now there's a variety of different URLs that are within it, but the main URLs that essentially calls is that it actually calls the /API/v2 endpoint to validate or that respective URL, which essentially validates whether it's to check if it's actually a NuGet package source. So the XML response with the headers basically say, hey, I'm a NuGet package source. And the package management endpoint will trust it. It basically just thinks it's, the data's there, so it must be a source. And what's quite interesting here is you can see that basically now we can actually look at what kind of packages it's doing searches for. So I can kind of go ahead and copy that. You can actually go ahead and paste it in here. I'm just going to do this in a way that doesn't actually throw a file. Response. I'm just going to open up VS Code here. That's not what it is. Come on, XML format. Come on. You're going to format with XML? Of course you're not. Okay, let's just try and have a look at this file, see if it actually got formatted. I do have the formatter there somewhere. I just can't remember where. Let me just see if I can open this up. I think it's going to be another compressed string. We'll try. Okay. Yeah, all right. So, well, actually, this is what we're going to do. Sorry, I'm just going to chuck this in an XML formatter. My copy and paste is really slow at the moment, so I'm just going to try and get this done. Okay, cool. All right. So you can see in here, what's really quite interesting is the structure that we have now. A lot of it, one of the key things about the NuGet object structure is that essentially the way that it's broken down, and this is the same for, this is NuGet v2. So PowerShell Get does essentially follows the same schema as what NuGet v2, and I would hope that there was no kind of modifications to the flavor. But what's quite interesting is that you can kind of see in here the structure. Now, what's happened within the feed there, each specific version is broken down into a respective entry. So I'm just going to kind of minimize these, and you can kind of see that you've got different entries here. And you can see in each of those specific IDs, that's actually contains the explicit URL lookup for that specific version. So you can go ahead and fetch things like that. Another really quite interesting thing is you can also see the metadata within here. So and you also got hashing information. That's pretty generic stuff that what you're going to have. Other really interesting thing I found was that within here, you can actually where is it? Yeah. Um, Oh yeah, right here. Duh. This is your endpoint that basically you can query to actually go and download the zip file, and you can see there essentially it provides you your the type, the file type, and then basically you can just go to that endpoint with that type, and we can download the file. So you can actually go ahead and do that, and it'll actually go and ask us to download the file. And there you go. And you can see it's a NuPack file. And if you guys are not familiar, NuPack or NUPG PKG files are essentially just zip files. So if we can go ahead and show this in a folder, I'll just quickly clean that up a bit. Clean that up, clean that up. Cool. So if we jump in here and we can just rename this, and you can see the structure. Now you can just yeah, there it is. So one of the really interesting things about this is that within the module, within the package that's being downloaded, you have a new spec file. So the new spec file essentially is your is the NuGet manifest file. Essentially, it's just a manifest that contains package information about it. Now, this is where things kind of vary between an actual NuGet package to a PowerShell Get package. So the PowerShell Get package has minimal information within that new spec file. We can actually go ahead and have a quick look at that, where the NuGet packages will have a lot more information about it, and that's really the information like the tags and other information about things like that. So let's just quickly go and have a quick look there, and you can see here it's very minor. So if you we can actually let's go and jump in at nuget.org. API/feed. We'll just go nuget.org and we'll just go download a actual a package from NuGet v2. So if we can go, we'll just basically go to XUnit. It's always a nice one. So we can go ahead and download this. So what we can do is just go. I'm like, why am I doing this way? I could just actually go and download it through. I can actually just go and download it through. Yeah, I might as well do that. So let's go save package. XUnit / location little parcel that is p/temp. See if we actually can save it. If not, we can just do it by the website. But the then we can have a look inside the package. Any questions or anything? Any questions? No questions? Alrighty. Cool. All right. So you can see here what it's trying to do is go to localhost API, which doesn't exist, which is my proxy that I wrote. That obviously it's not turned on, so it's not going to forward that request. Let's see. Did I actually have? Yeah, it should go there. It's dog slow. All right, that's taken too long. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it from here. So we can just go and grab version 2.4.1, and then we can just basically go and download a package here. So if we go and show in folder, we can do the same thing. We can just basically rename this file as a zip. We can go ahead there and we can have a look at it. So you can see the new spec file. It's probably going to make a liar out of me now, but hopefully not. Usually it has more information. Yeah, okay, it has a little bit more information. You can see the dependencies. That's probably the big thing is that it actually stores dependencies within that. So within a pester file, there's no dependencies. That's not something that's really required, but within a new spec file, you obviously can have all that extra information. So not much, but still, that's probably a big key difference is dependencies right there. So what's other quite interesting thing about this is that, so you can see here, if we were to do the same lookup, actually, I'm going to do something interesting. So what I'm going to do here, let's kind of just show you the nature of package management is what we're going to do is we're going to register the PowerShell gallery as a NuGet package source. And we're going to search it, not using PowerShell get, but we're going to search it using the NuGet package, and it will work. One of the things is that, and this is actually quite interesting, is that the package, when downloading with PowerShell get, so for instance, if you're doing install module and things like that, because the module's actually, like you're actually downloading a package and then you're actually, extracting that NuGet file, that the new pack file into a specific directory to install it, that there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that essentially is incorporated into that commandlet to be able to work. Where obviously if you're saving a package, or if you're, if you're saving a package, it doesn't need to do that. This is one of those kinds of caveats I found was that if I was automatically appending a package within a PowerShell module, and I accidentally mucked it, broke I had the module in a subdirectory, and I zipped up the parent directory. So essentially, there's no manifest file there. It'll break. However, if you're using the package management module, it's perfectly fine. It doesn't care. It just basically sees it as a zip file and just dumps it there. Where PowerShell get doesn't really like that, So what we can do is just go register package source. I'm going to call this PS test. So what we can do is just go https:/PowerShell gallery dot PowerShell/API/v2. Then we're going to go package source provider name. We're going to go NuGet. I think that's it. I don't think we need anything else. It's not valid. HTTP PowerShell gallery.org/API/v2. What am I doing wrong? Something's not right. It's not. Okay. PowerShell gallery. PowerShell gallery.com. Whoops, sorry. Whoops, and that's why. Now, well, another interesting thing is that if we just let that go again. Actually, no, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to show you why. So we can just go ahead and we can just unregister package source, and we're just going to name PS test. And we're going to re-register it. And the reason why is I want to turn on the verbose switch, and you're going to see something really interesting here. That's if you were to kind of replicate a NuGet source, you can see the initial lookup is just to its root. So that's all it's required to be able to actually register a package source and validate whether it's a valid package source. So yeah, interesting. Now you can see here it's a NuGet provider, so I can just basically go find module tester provider. Oh no, actually, no, I don't need to do versions of the dependency. Let's find it repository. PS test. Let's do those. that. And you can see here, actually, no, that's through the PS gallery. Damn it, I didn't want to do it through that. Let's get back to close. Okay, hang on. Let me just remove the just package source test. It's going to kind of clean this up. PS repository. So that should work. Get PS repository. It's my fault. I was using Find module. I'm supposed to be using Find package. I'm using the wrong module. Tester / verbose. Sorry. So you can see here, it's basically done a lookup within the PS gallery. It actually looks like we might do a subsequent lookup. Yeah, so you can see here we're going. Okay, yep. Now it's calling nuget.org. Let me just remove that. That's a bug within this module, or within this version of the module. So what we can do is we're just going to go nuget yes, get package source. Nuget.org. So what we can do is let's just do another quick find package. Oh, yeah, find package, and we can just say provide a name. We can just basically say NuGet. And what we're doing here is we're actually forcing it to go over NuGet instead of using PS-get. So you can see here the source is on PS-test, which is our NuGet source. So it's not PS-get, it's NuGet. So yeah. Anyway, so one of the really interesting things is that within this is NuGet v2. NuGet v2 is really good. One of the things that we kind of wondered was, what about vulnerability information? And this is kind of against the broader community of packages. So for instance, if we go, let's just look at Bootstrap. So if we go and have a look at Bootstrap, and we can actually see in here that down here on that right hand side, you guys can see that there's essentially a vulnerability marker, which basically says, hey, there's a vulnerability with this package. So if we can click on here, you can see this package has one vulnerability, blah blah blah. You know, it's quite dangerous. What's really quite interesting about this is that there's no information about this in NuGet v2. So that basically means that if you kind of want that metadata information, that additional vulnerability metadata, you actually have to go to NuGet v3. So this is kind of where things get quite interesting, because NuGet v3 has a lot of really cool information with it. So if we go to NuGet v3, I'm just going to kind of jump on the schema. I also need to talk. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about dependencies. Where is it? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Documentation. So this API, so this documentation is really good with kind of talking about how the API works. I'm not going to kind of go into too much detail here, just mainly because of the fact that we're not really using it, but it's still good to know. So one of the interesting things is that the same like authentication, all that kind of stuff still works under the hood. NuGet v3, because it has that vulnerability information, if you're kind of using like Visual Studio, and you go to, NuGet Package Management, and if you were to go to Bootstrap, things like that, it'll actually give you a warning and be like, hey, this package is vulnerable. Here's the CVEs. You can go there and have a look. And what's really quite cool about that is that Microsoft kind of talked about, there's you can actually do a scan for packages using the .NET executable. So you can basically go .NET, look for the package, and then basically it'll go and have a look for it, and it'll come back with information about that package and whatever it may be. But what's really quite interesting is that that was basically the supported tool for be able to do it, but that's not necessarily the case. You can actually just go and get it from you can get that vulnerability information from the Nuget API, so the V3 API. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about it, where you can get it. So what's quite interesting is that where it's stored is within just make sure I'm in the right spot. Yes, in the metadata. And so essentially the way that it kind of works, and let's just go and grab it. Let's go and have a look here. Oops, that doesn't work because we actually got to get rid of the get. So you can see here the JSON structure within it, and obviously it's completely different to what the XML structure is. It has a lot more information, a lot more about the package. But one of the really cool pieces of the information is you can obviously see. Actually, that's another thing about the Nuget v3 API is that there's validation of the package as well. So you have to validate the package to make sure that it hasn't been modified. So it will do that. But one of the interesting things is that vulnerability information. And now that vulnerability information is actually a bad example. Actually, let's see if it's here. So is it within the context? No, it's not within the context. Cool. So usually what's within the catalog entry, there will be a vulnerability object within the JSON object structure. But obviously when there is no vulnerability, it's not there. So what we can actually do is we'll just go and change it. Actually something that we know has vulnerability information. So let's go back to Bootstrap. So what we can do is just do a quick search for 4.2.1. Okay, cool. So 4.2.1, you can see here, you've got the same information, but if we scroll down here, where is it? Catalog entry. Is it 4.2.1? Yeah, 4.2.1. Where is it? I'm just trying to find it. Now oh gosh, why is this not working? I'm 4.2.2. Oh, this is, hang on one sec. Registration boot index. Hang on. Is it index? It is. It isn't here. I'm just. Okay. Where is it? Okay, it's not in that request. Okay, great. So at the end of the day, though, within the request, there will be an object called vulnerabilities. Now I actually want to go and find it because I really want to actually show you guys that. So, but essentially within that structure, you can see in here, this is a really good example. You can see basically you have your vulnerabilities. Within that, you have your advisory URL with your severity. So, it's pretty straightforward. And basically that severity is obviously, governed on how you want to, governed on the CVE. So there's not really, yeah. I think that's pretty much it for Nuget v3. I think, does anyone have any questions with regards to that? Actually, I'll quickly talk about something else with Nuget v3 as well. So, so obviously, the way that it works is that within Visual Studio itself, it does essentially a number of lookups to be able to ascertain that information. But essentially what it will do is it'll go and do, when you go and load the Nuget Package Manager, essentially what it will do is it'll go and do a catalog lookup. And then from that, it'll actually go and perform a lookup for subsequent items. There's obviously the searching capability within Nuget as well. So for instance, you can see here, there's your catalog. and then basically you can just go and look at that page, and that will give you some information that you just basically pop it on the package management. Within, yeah, and then you can obviously, then when you actually select a specific package, within that package, it basically will do a metadata lookup. So it'll actually go and find the metadata, and then basically pull all versions, including pre-releases, down onto the machine. And then basically you can kind of, like, that metadata is there now, cached locally. So then when you click on different versions, and if there's vulnerability information, that's how it kind of updates that. With Nuget v2, it's super, super basic. So as you could see before, is when we did a lookup within the PowerShell gallery, that's all it's doing. It's literally just doing a straight lookup like that. Now, if you specify versions and things like that, it can kind of that's when things get a little bit different. And that's basically, how you got the minimum version, the maximum version. That's basically, yeah. Now, what's really interesting about versioning, versioning. It's a really, really good document that kind of talks about, here we go, talks about versioning, how how things are versioning. And this is really your version ranges. And this is really, really important to kind of understand how your dependencies are met for packages. And so you can kind of see here what inclusive and exclusive is. So and I definitely recommend going and having a look at this documentation if you kind of really want to get your head around it. But the one really cool thing is that if we kind of go back to our XML here, find packages by ID, and you can actually look at the versioning information within here. Where is it? Where's the dependencies? Yeah, okay. There's no dependencies. PowerShell is one of those things that really struggles with dependencies. There's I think VMware have a product that has dependencies on. Let me just see if I can find something that has a dependency. I know VMware have a whole bunch of dependencies. So I think it's VMware Vim. See if it's got dependencies. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and grab that, and we can basically go and do a lookup. So what we can do is go find packages by ID based on that URL. So let me just quickly grab that. We can actually, I'm just trying to think of a way we can do it that basically I don't have to format the XML. Okay. What I might do is I'm just going to have to bite that bullet, and we'll just reformat the XML. That's okay. Hopefully we should have a dependency in here anyway. So let's see if it works in Edge. Oh, cool. Okay, it works in Edge. Doesn't format well, does it? We can just go ahead and copy that. We can just paste it in here. Go to format. Browser's really having a hard time. Does anyone have any questions? So find some dependencies. I wanted to really find some dependencies. No, they don't have dependencies. Oh, I could actually just do. I know where I could have found it. You can actually also look at dependencies on the gallery. If you just go back to gallery.com, and we can just go AZ accounts. Where is it? Yeah, so you can also view dependencies if you click package details, and that's what it's looking for there. So I can't. Do you guys want to see VMware? Like, do you actually want to see the dependencies? Kind of throw it out there. Does anyone actually want to see the dependencies? You don't have to. I'm just kind of owners VMware package detail, no dependencies. Because Azure's got something. Azure Storage probably will, hopefully. Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to have a quick look at it anyway. So one of the interesting things is you can see here the we have the semantic versioning format. Oh, whoops, back. you can see the semantic versioning happening there. So essentially that's translated from the XML into there as well. So if you kind of go back to our documentation, we can basically kind of figure out what's going on here. So we can say, all right, we go back, okay, what is it? It's greater than 5.6.0. That's correct. Is it greater than 5.6.0? I think that's correct. We can basically say maximum version exclusive. But because it's actually got, let's just quickly open up a notepad. Oops, let me quickly go back. I'm just going to quickly paste this again. Because it's using, it's not using square brackets, but it's using parentheses. Oops. It's exclusive. So essentially what that, the differences between exclusive and inclusive is that exclusive excludes the current version, and inclusive includes the current version. So you can see a good example would be is that that would include versions 1. It would include through to versions 1 to versions 2, where that would basically be from anything in between versions, so version 1.1 to version 1.9. So yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that's right.
Yeah, that's right. It matches the less than and equal to and greater than and equal to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the inclusive and exclusiveness is one of those things that it can kind of get a bit wonky. So, but yeah, that's pretty much that. So yeah, I think I'm going to finish it up. Does anyone have any questions or anything? So, or any feedback with regards to the talk or anything like that? I know that it's a little different than what it was last time, but yeah.
Oh, it's good. That was a good deep dive. Yeah. Learned some stuff that I definitely didn't know. That's for sure.
I think oops, I'm just going to quickly go ahead and stop sharing. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask questions, or if you want to jump in, you can feel free to jump in and ask questions.
Seems pretty quiet now.
Don't see anything in the chat either. Oh,
No.
That's all right. I think yeah. So I think I'm going to throw it out there anyway. But what do you guys think of the new format? Are you guys liking it? You're not liking it? Want something else?
It's brand new. We'll have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah. I think that the chat's very, very inactive at the moment, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So I think that yeah, it was definitely a different change. I think we'll give it another go next month and see how we go. But yeah, anyway, yeah. What else has been happening in everyone else's world? What else
Not
has
too
been
much
going
from
on?
me. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, is everyone staying well? Like, because I know that like a couple of weeks ago, Amy got RSV and she was really sick. So I know it's not great.
No, it's going around. Yeah.
We went up to Burpengary and to the respiratory center up there to
Oh,
go
yeah.
and
Yeah.
go and get it looked at, and yeah, she had to get the test done, and
Yeah.
poor girl, yeah, it's not
Mm.
fun. Yeah, but no, I think yeah. So one of I think the other interesting thing about the Nuget package management is that with the new package management, actually that's actually one thing I forgot to talk about was the new package management module that's being released. So package management, PowerShell package management's changing. It's kind of gone through a bit of a rewrite with, and one of the big things is that the commandlets are changing. And it's kind of like if you kind of look at it, and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. It should just always be install module. But one of the really interesting things is that the reason why it's happening is because the install module is technically a third of the pie in terms of PowerShell Gallery and what it's actually doing in there. So a lot of it's being replaced with PS resource. And the reason why is that basically it's an actual resource because there's scripts as well as desired state configuration resources. So modules as part of it, but it's just all kind of, it's kind of a different kind of kettle fish.
Mm.
Interesting thing about PowerShell, the Nuget, the new version of PowerShell, Get, is that it is still using it's still using traditional Nuget API v2. So yeah, and the other interesting thing is that with the scanning information, from what I've heard, this kind of secondhand information is that Microsoft does scanning on their end for vulnerable packages, but there's no sort of like vulnerability information that's being put forward. And that's, I would like to see something like that being done, just because of the nature of like what Python's doing it. That's probably a perfect example. We kind of do need that information there. So um, I think that even just having the metadata available, which we can't in NuGet v2, just needs to be made available in NuGet v3. So, or we kind of, yeah, have to start writing our own tools, which, you know, we can. It's just that's, yeah. So,
Mm.
but yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, let's leave it there. I
Yeah.
think, I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for joining. Please leave feedback. Send me a message, or send me and Wayne a message if you liked it. What the format was. I don't know what would. I think maybe next week we're gonna. Um, we might do. Oh, so next week, next month, we might do something a little. Well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Mm.
And then yeah, we'll go from there. But anyway, guys, I hope you had fun. I did. It's always a very loose introduction, very informal. It's not as polished as you probably can see. And I'm sitting there trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, why? And I've done that so many times. I just automatically go like find module, and I'm like, why is this always going to PowerShell get? And I'm like, no, it's find package.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just things like that. So yeah, but I hope I think it was a lot more informal. It's a little bit easier to kind of to digest. So
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah. There's incidental stuff that you'll learn as well. You know, like if someone forgets what they're doing or they make a
Hmm.
mistake, sometimes that's good.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I hope that you can kind of see that, you know, a lot of it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and so we'll see how we go and see if you guys like it. But anyway, we'll see you guys. I'm streaming. I'm might be streaming Saturday. We'll see. I probably will. But yeah. Anyway, see yous.
True.
Bye.
See ya.